the NSA walked in. They're like, "Hey, we got to take a look at your computer. We got some reports." Like the guy sits down, clicks a couple times, and you just hear him go, "Oh, oh, oh." Welcome to the G.N.A podcast, Games, Nerds, and Alcohol, where we get drunk and talk about stuff. And this is going to be 3 days in a row of me getting drunk, so I think I might have a problem. I'm just looking up some groups, some help groups, mostly food groups about, like, not eating so much food because I drunk eat, and that's a terrible thing. So those are the groups I'm looking at. Anyways, we're being joined tonight by a couple of rascals, old friends of mine. We're being joined with D from Microbrew Gamerz. D, how you feeling tonight, man?
I'm feeling much better, man. I'm finally off all the medicine, so yeah, I can drink tonight.
Hoorah!
I'm starting off light, so I'm starting on something light tonight. You got to keep it light, but yeah.
Way to be. And we're being joined again by Soda. Soda, how you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. Much cooler now. It's hot out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can believe it. Yeah, it was like 90, 93 or 95 today here, which, I mean, that's not so bad, but like the 70 or 80% humidity makes it like just walking into a wall of water. It sucks.
Tomorrow's heat index here is a 105, the heat index.
Oh, I have no clue what the heat index is.
Like 98. Yeah, Iowa's hot. Like, you know, they never tell you Iowa, the tornadoes and wind and all that, which is all true. You get tornadoes and you get high winds, and the wintertime gets like -5 degrees for 2 weeks straight. And it doesn't warm up during the day. Like when the sun comes out in New York, you'll see icicles dripping. Not here. It just stays cold. The wind stays, and the wind keeps it all cold, so it gets really cold. But it doesn't last that long. But then when springtime, which is a nice weekend, and then summertime happens, it's like somebody turned the oven on, and every day is just fucking hot. It's really hot, like in Florida. It's like being in Florida. It really is. And nobody wants to believe me when I say that. It's like, no, Iowa is really like Florida. I've been to Florida. I've been to Phoenix, Arizona. I've now lived in Iowa for a year, and Iowa summers are hot. Like, really hot.
Well, let's kick into the first segment. Yeah. What is everybody drinking? So, D, what are you drinking, my man?
Well, since I'm starting light today, I'm starting off with a Carlson Orchard's Honeycrisp hard cider.
Ooh.
Got about 4.5% alcohol by volume, so I'm starting off with light alcohol to kind of get back into it since, you know, COVID and the medication.
Yeah. So
it's unfiltered hard cider, and it's also made with local apples and local honey. So this is actually made... Man? It's made in Leominster, Mass. So actually, about 20 minutes from me. So you can taste the apple right on the attack, but not strong. And it's sweet, but not too sweet. It's almost like slightly watered down and carbonated apple juice, but in a good way. Like, it tastes really good. Like, it's not too overpoweringly sweet. You still have some of that carbonation on the back end and a little bit of that apple flavor on the back end as an aftertaste. So it's really good. It's definitely a good summer drink.
Does it have that cider sting to it? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
Oh, good.
I don't taste any cider sting. It's just a Honeycrisp, you know, some honey in it. It's really good.
Huh.
I'll show you the can right here.
Oh yeah, simple, easy. I like it. What about you, Soda? What are you drinking tonight?
Well, I've actually I've been out all day with my family, and we stopped for lunch, and I had a couple of beers, a couple of hazy IPAs of different kinds. One from Barntown Brewing in Iowa, which was a good place. So now that I'm home, I dialed it back after a couple of glasses of Big Water, and I'm having a Surly Brewing Company Grapefruit Supreme. Tart ale with grapefruit added. And, you know, I'm not into all the fruit beers that much, but I've had this one before, and it's subtle, It's more like an IPA with a little grapefruit added to it, and it's a sessionable beer. It's like 4 point something %. So I'm dialing it back when I got home, but I'll maybe step it up again. But it's 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You don't. I was gonna say you don't need to get trashed. You just need to enjoy it. Like it's a weird thing. Like where I work now, that we've got these guys that are just coming in, and like literally they're not even 21 when they're coming into work. And one of the guys is turning 21, and he was asking me, he's like, "Hey, so I'm turning 21. What's a good drink to drink?" And I'm like, I am the wrong dude to ask that. It's like, because at 21, I would literally drink the swill that came out of the beer mats out of a shoe. Like I was just drinking to drink at that point in time. It wasn't until years later that I realized I really enjoyed the flavor of booze. I said, so I drank for the flavor.
So you had it the way. So my father had this theory that, in other countries, like if you go to France, there's a bottle of wine on a table at the meals, and kids could have a little taste of wine if they wanted to, whatever. That way, when they turn 21, they're not like, ready to just go out and, I've never been, it's like forbidden fruit. So my dad was always like, if you want to taste a beer, if you want to taste of this, taste of that. So it wasn't ever anything hidden. So when I turned 21, it was like, whatever.
Well, so like my family was just like that.
Flavor of way back when,
Well, so my family was like that, but everybody around me just drank to drink. So like I never was really interested in drinking all that much, but anybody who was around me who drank just drank to drink. So like when I turned 21, it's like, all right, well, we're just drinking to drink. Cool. All right. Well, let's a shot of this. Okay, let's drink a shot of that. But when I say years later, it was about 22, 23 that I realized, now I get why people drank this. This is kind of yummy. I like this. And it just was years after I was 21, because that 21 years just drink. So it's really weird whenever, like, it's just funny now that I drink booze, and I'm more interested. Like when somebody's like, "Hey, I'm trying this," I'm like, I say, "Well, what's it like?" And they're like, "Oh, it tastes like a whatever." And I'm like, "Well, no, tell me. Like, I'm interested. What is it like? I want to know. I'm not being like a snob or whatever. I'm like, I literally want to know. Is it something that's good? Because if it's something that's like you're giving me a good description, I want to try it. Like what I'm trying tonight, literally I just concocted in my kitchen because I have no mixers. And I just realized that the only actual mixer I could count is I've got this diet cran grape juice that I had on the floor here. So I was like, what can I mix with that? And I went, wait a second. Something citrusy would go good with that. Something with a little citrus kick. I've got this blood orange moonshine that I picked up from Belle Isle Moonshine. I haven't drank it yet. I've just mixed it, and I mixed it fairly light. So like you can see here, it's mostly cran grape juice because I don't know how this is going to be, but I'm going to try it right now in front of you guys. I haven't had a sip yet. Actually, that's not bad. I mean, when I say it's not bad, I don't mean it's not good. Well, actually, I do mean it's not good either. It's not bad. It's not good. It's a little surprising. I honestly thought it was going to be one way or the other. I didn't really think it was going to be this middle of the road. So the attack is a full mixture of the cran portion of the cran grape juice and the citrus from the moonshine. Like the grape part of it is gone. Like eerily gone. Like I drink this stuff by the half gallon because I just love the flavor of it. The grape part, the tart part of it is 100% gone. There is no tartness, no grape to it whatsoever. The finish though, is almost vodka-esque. Like it's not moonshine. It doesn't taste like moonshine right now. Like, how moonshine has that, I'm going to put hair on your hairs. This does, like, that's gone. It almost tastes exclusively like vodka. It tastes not good vodka, unfortunately. It tastes like absolute vodka. Like that. Like just that grainy vodka that you get.
So I have a friend in upstate New York who's a distiller. Lock 32 Distillery, and I've tried some of the bourbon, some of the things from that place, but he gave me a jar like 2 years ago of Hearts. And if you know what Hearts is, it's bourbon before it's in the barrel and aged. And it's like the pure stuff. 151 proof. And so that jar sat around my house for 2+ years, and we moved to Iowa with the jar in a box, and I had it here. And I'm like, what am I going to do with this? I don't drink 151. It's too damn strong. And I'm like, okay. So I text him. I'm like, what do I do with this? He's like, you put some fruit in a glass with some ice cubes, and you pour it over it, and you let it sit for a little bit, and you sip it. I'm like, all right, it's probably going to be too strong. I may not like it. I may have to add soda to it or something. So I put some blueberries and some orange slices and stuff into a glass with ice, and I poured it in there. I let it sit for like 10 minutes. I sipped it. It's fantastic. Unbelievably smooth. Like, for 151, I was like, holy cow. I mean, I only had a little bit of it that night, and I had some like a week or two later, and it was not that much. It was like this much in the bottom of the jar, they gave me. It was Hearts. They don't make much of it. But yeah, so just interesting. But your little story, it kind of reminds me of like, a lot of other, where do drinks come from? Where they come from? Usually people are mixing things and just trying stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly.
Where'd gin and tonic come from? Do you know where gin and tonic came from?
Somebody just
Quinine
mixed.
is what they used to fight malaria. And when the British Empire was, in control of India, and British troops were in India, and they had gin, they had nothing to mix it with. So a bartender said, let's take this quinine, which was basically malaria medicine, and water it down and use it as a mixer and put some gin in it with some lime juice and see what that's like. And poof, you have a gin and tonic. World famous drink.
Good old trial and error. That's how we made it through this far.
They used medicine and mixed it with water and said, let's make it, that's a mixer. That's what they had.
All right, second segment of the show, State of Games. State of Games is where we talk about what we've been playing for the past week, or we just pontificate what we feel gaming is just in general today. And since we recorded Friday, I'm going to guess that there's not that much playtime in between. But if you do, cool. If not, talk about what you plan to play, I guess, in the next couple of days or something. But Soda, why don't you bring that around? What is your State of Games, man?
Well, between Friday and today, yesterday I played 18 holes of disc golf at Walnut Creek Disc Golf Course, which is now my favorite disc golf course in Iowa because it's most like what I'm used to. It's big. It's in the woods. It's challenging. And, yeah, I had a lot of fun there. I bought a new disc because I lost a disc.
Yeah, so you said you lost the disc. You never found it?
No, I looked all over for it. I found a different disc. Looking for my disc, my Star Mamba, I found a Destiny, what is it, West Side Discs Destiny, which I've never seen one of those before, which, nobody's name's on it. No, typically in disc golf, you should put your name and phone number inside of your disc. So if you lose it and somebody finds it, they can text you and you can connect and get your disc back. Not in Iowa, but in New York State, most disc golf courses have a box with a slot in it, and if you find a disc, you drop it in the slot, and the ambassador of the course will reach out to whoever owns the disc, and if there's no name or number on it, it'll find a new home. Like, they'll give it to a kid, somebody who's learning, whatever.
Nice.
I'm here in Iowa, and I was at a disc golf store the other night, and I asked about this. This is kind of like if you find a disc with no name or number on it, it's like, whatever. So you're supposed to bring it to one of the local shops. There's 2 shops. It's a large metro area with 1 million people. There's 2 shops. So you're supposed to bring it to a shop, and they're going to find the owner. But if there's no name or number on it, I mean, I bought some used discs that have name and numbers crossed off on the back of them. So who knows? But yeah, so I have that West Side disc. So I went out. I really like the Star Mamba. It's of all the discs I have, I can throw it the farthest by about 10 or 15 feet, which makes a little difference. It's a little predictable for me, whatever my throwing motion, which is not great. So I went and bought another Star Mamba. And I tested it out yesterday, and I like it. Wow.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Is that anything else on State of Games?
Not really.
What? No, you don't have to.
I mean,
It just
everything's a game. You can game anything, but yeah, not particularly. No.
What about you, D? What's your state of games, man?
Well, last night I played some Breath of the Wild with the wife because we really still enjoyed playing and rebeating that game.
Fun game.
But we also went to the game store yesterday after the other activities, the Butterfly Palace and Deerfield and Yankee Candle Factory, which we brought the kids to all that.
Oh, cool.
My daughter is starting to get into like Star Wars and really into the comic books, so we went there and picked up some Darth Vader comic books for her to read. And we also found a couple of games that I tried out too last night. So on the Genesis, I got Goofy's Hysterical History Tour.
Oh my god. I haven't
It's
heard
a
of that game.
platformer. It's tough, but
Dude,
it's
I
fun.
haven't heard of that game in, oh my god, a decade maybe? Like, maybe more. God damn.
Yeah, so I was playing that on the Genesis last night. It's a bit of fun. And also something I didn't realize that came out on the Genesis. Because I mean, I had it on the NES, but we got Marble Madness on the Genesis.
Oh my god, I remember Marble Madness.
Yeah, I remember it being on the NES. I had it for the NES. I was like, I didn't realize it came out for the Genesis. And I think I like the Genesis version better.
Really?
A little bit better graphics, a little bit tighter controls.
I'm gonna have to play it. I haven't played Marble. I loved Marble Madness. God, as a kid, I loved Marble Madness.
It's a good game. So this one's a lot of fun on the Genesis. I was sitting there kicking back after finished up some Zelda. I was kicking back and playing, of course, Goofy's for a little bit. But then I went to Marble Madness and pretty much finished the night doing that.
Nice. Very nice. Well, my state of games, I actually been playing, I jumped into Shadows of Mordor. I haven't played that game in so long. I just had to jump back in and play it for a little bit. It's such a fun game. It's Lord of the Rings. You play as the ranger, not the ranger that you're thinking of, a different ranger who ends up dying and then ends up being, I don't know whether the word is possessed or accompanied by one of the ring makers or the ring maker who made the all of the rings of power. So it's a really interesting story. It's got a great nemesis system in it, and I want to say that I may be wrong, but I want to say that this game came up with a nemesis or perfected the nemesis system. Maybe not came up with it, but perfected the nemesis system. It's a really interesting game. It's very if you ever played the Batman Arkham series, that's a more common game. If you have played Shadows of Mordor, which most people have, but if you haven't, the Arkham series is very akin to the fighting style of it. You don't necessarily, like, it's not you press a button and an attack happens. It's more of like you kind of instruct it what to do. You press in combinations and things unfold, and you can quickly press a button to interrupt what's happening to make something, to make a defense action happen. It's fun. It's easy to jump into, really hard to I guess master is the best way to describe that. Been playing Hades. I've got, I think I've accumulated up like 3,600 darkness in that thing finally. So I'm finally getting to, the second boss, I think, which is the Minotaur and whoever he's fighting. Oedipus? No, who the fuck is that other guy? I'm fighting another warrior as well, but I'm up to that point where I'm consistently getting there with, doesn't matter which weapon I'm using. So that's really fun. Games I'm looking forward to this coming week. I picked up Red Dead Redemption 2. Sorry, I should specify what game I actually bought. Red Dead Redemption 2. I also picked up, and on a whim, I picked this up. I picked up Star Wars Battlefront 2. I don't know why I did. It was like, I think 11 or 14 bucks. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get it. And I did. I got it. So I'm looking forward to playing that in the next couple of weeks. I'm also looking forward to The Quarry is supposed to be getting its multiplayer here, I want to say next week. So once that comes up, I really want to set aside I want to see who has The Quarry and then set aside some time to do set aside a weekend, where we can just like play it for 3-4 hours at a shot and just, play through the entire game in a multiplayer setting. Cause I really love supermassive games. So I can't wait to get back into those. But yeah. That's my state of games. I'm feeling, I'm getting back into a lot of single player games. I feel like for years I've just been kind of stuck in this rut of trying to find multiplayer social games that I can just play with people versus doing my bread and butter, which is enjoying a single player game and enjoying a single player story. And I'm actually really, and I can't say, I believe I'm going to say this, I'm really happy that I'm jumping back into single player games and really starting to dig it out. It doesn't help with the G.N.A community because, I'm not driving, hey, let's go play this game, everybody. Let's go play that game, everybody. I'm just like, yeah, I'm playing. Hope everybody's doing good. So, I mean, it doesn't help there, but hopefully I can get the Jackbox games going again here shortly, do some game nights. And also the big multiplayer I guess I'm going to put out there is we're going to be doing the G.N.A Misadventure League again. I've got a homebrew that I built out. I've got 5 players. We're going to kick through, see who survives, who doesn't. I'm just really hoping like session 1 is going to open up with, okay, if you're attached to your character, become unattached. Because there's a good chance he's going to die, so keep a spare character handy so that you can roll right back into the game.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, I'm super excited about getting it back going. I haven't had a D&D game going since 2020. It ended out in 2020.
Been a while for me as well.
Yeah, it was really going well. I had we were doing the Ghosts of Saltmarsh, and like Saltmarsh, yeah, dude. Back in the 80s, you remember back in like the late 70s,
modules, right? The cardboard, like
yes, Saltmarsh, yes. So they took all of those.
It's full. There was like 3 or 4 of those in a row. I have them all.
Yeah. So
in the basement in boxes, yes.
So they re-released them for 5e, and it's called the
Secret of Saltmarsh.
Yeah, there's the Sinister Secret. There's a whole bunch of them. You remember the ghost, the haunted house.
Yes, that's the Sinister Secret. That's the first one.
Yes, that's the first one. And they started them off, and they took those modules, but they like the old modules that they had that they released. While you could tie them together fairly well, they didn't have like a really there wasn't a step for step cohesive storyline between all of them unless you made them that way. But in Ghosts of Saltmarsh, they really tied them all together and made a very specific, cohesive story involving the Scarlet Brotherhood. And it was a fantastic story. It involved naval battles. It involved sunken ships. It involved haunted ships. I was so excited to get into it. I probably, and I kid you not, I went through that entire book and I probably had 200 to 250 hours of prep work for that, campaign, for that set of adventures. And I was so disappointed and defeated when just a couple of bad apples really just screwed the whole game over. I was just like, to the point of I didn't actually even go through all the audio I had because it went downhill and it just got painful. So I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm not even going to bother. I released a few episodes of it and then just said, I'm good. But I'm happy to say that the G.N.A Misadventure League is firing back up with some homebrew action, and it's going to be an interesting one because I've made the skeletal structure of what I want, like the skeletal structure of a storyline, but I think at last count, I had about 18 different paths that they could take that leads to different arcs of the story. So it's basically the same whole story, but depending on which direction they go, they'll get a different piece of the story. So if they decide to go one way, they'll get that segment of the story. And I did even build it in so that depending on which way you go, time is going to advance and you can miss out on a whole chunk of the story. So I've literally written into the whole homebrew parts of it never being used. Like literally parts that nobody will ever even know about unless after we're all done with it, they say, hey, what about this? And I go, well, that was on this path that you guys didn't take. And this was that information, and just letting people know that's what was happening if they so are inclined to figure it out.
Cool. But
I don't have nearly I spent way more time prepping for Ghosts of Saltmarsh because I never do book content anymore. Like I always did homebrew stuff. Anytime I tried to do book stuff, I always got like really worried that I was going to break canon. And actually the one time like forever ago where I did a book content, I'm trying to remember what it was. It was back in 3A days. And it was at a local comic shop and I just said, yeah, I'm going to DM this. And, first day out, somebody started barking at me about, well, that's not how the lore goes. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, well, that didn't happen until this time. And I'm like, okay. And that was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So I just go with homebrews now. But I was really excited about Saltmarsh because I absolutely loved the old Saltmarsh modules. And I was really excited to play through them. And maybe I even said to the group, maybe if everybody's so inclined, we'll fire up, new characters and run through Saltmarsh if everybody's so inclined to do so. If they are, cool. I still have all that prep work that I did, so it wouldn't be that hard. I just had to go refresh myself with the story. But that's really what I'm focusing on now, and then just playing games and trying to keep myself sane. Because, man, life is busy right now, man. Like, getting old sucks.
No kidding.
But the meat.
I explained to my daughter, it's like, you focus on play dates and school and play dates and school. It's like when you get older, the play is like little pockets of stuff between all the work, which are big pockets of things. So you got to kind of make it all play by finding some silver lining in whatever you're doing. Doing the garden or shoveling shit, whatever it is, you got to make it fun. Because the actual game time is much less. And another big lesson for the kids is appreciate it when you do it. Like, my daughter's 8, so she doesn't stop and appreciate things, but I have to remind her all the time, like, hey, we're here right now. Right? Let's appreciate this right here. When we leave here, we're not going to have this right here. We'll have something else. But I want to go do this. I want to go do that. Let's go do this. What about this? And ask questions.
What makes me appreciate what Brad Pitt said not that long ago. In the news, he's thinking about retiring from acting and giving up acting so he can go back and finish all the Sega Genesis games in his backlog. He wants to go back and just retro game. That's what he wants to do.
Mad props.
Yeah, mad props to the guy. I'm like, man, if I made enough money just to retire now, that's what I'd be doing. Be like, get into my backlog.
Dude, that's my goal. Like, literally, that is my goal. Just to make enough money where I can, like, just take time off to just play games. Like, that's like just, I would, dude, do you know how amazing it would be to just get a group of people together and say, hey, guess what, guys? This weekend, we're doing the Curse of Strihad. So grab your beers, whatever it is. We're doing a 4-day weekend and we're doing all of Curse of Strihad. Let's go. And just get everybody together out, and I don't care, Massanutten or wherever the hell I have a timeshare at that point in time, and just go do it. Like, how boss would that be?
Man, if we had money like Brad Pitt or like an actor, like he made millions and stuff like that, imagine just taking a week off, renting one of those like B&B fucking castles and having a D&D session in a fucking castle.
Dude, it could happen. Oh, have you seen the Escape the Chateau? That show that's on like Peacock TV or whatever?
No, I haven't.
So these people, these English dudes, well, this English couple, I should say. I call everybody dudes, and I got to stop doing that because people get offended when I keep calling everybody dudes. Like,
but it's gender neutral. Everything's a dude.
Yeah, I know, but if you go all the way,
dude at the dog, the cat, the bird. I mean,
but if you go way back, dude was meant to be like cowboys.
On Friday, when you told me that you call everything a dude,
yeah, I know.
The toaster and called the toaster dude. I
did. So I'm trying not to call everything dudes.
Why? Why try that? Why not just go with it?
Because people are so frigging touchy nowadays. Like they don't like, they want you to understand that they are not whatever, but they don't want to understand that
girls
what you
call
are.
their girlfriends, dude.
I know, but not everybody's that way. So just
Cecil froze, I think.
Just to
Cecil
not.
Froze.
What do you mean I froze?
Froze him.
I'm not froze.
Now
What are
he's
you going
catching
on
up.
about?
There he is. He's back.
You touch holes. I'm trying not to call everything dude. So there's this British couple that went to France and bought an old, and the best way to describe it is a castle. Like literally, it's like 7 floors or whatever. It's this huge frigging chateau, but it's got a moat around it. It's got a big lake for protection around it. It's awesome. And like, I was just thinking to myself, we should find one of these places, and they rent them out for weddings and shit like that, but we should find one of these places and just go and play D&D there. Like or go play Vampire the Masquerade. Could you imagine
We
playing
should
Vampire
pool our
the
money
Masquerade?
and buy it. Come on, we should pool our money and buy one.
I mean,
So
I would
there's a
do
place
it,
in
but
Indiana, I think it's in Indiana, which is like the outside walls are there, and the moat is there, and the lands are there, but the castle chateau is like down, like it's down, and the whole land, that whole area is for sale. I saw it last year. We were looking for houses. Oh, let's go there, and we'll build a house in the middle of it. But but there's your idea. Build that castle in the middle of it. You've already got the moats and the grounds, and the walls are on the outside, and the guard towers, and the other house, whatever, stables and all that. Build the main house there. In the meantime, build whatever, set up easy ups and live there. But you know what? It's a compound that could turn into a mighty castle.
yeah, it'd be cool. It would definitely be cool. Anyhow, let's get into the meat of the actual topic for tonight, which was our favorite retro game. And
Obscure.
retro game.
Obscure retro games.
Obscure. Favorite obscure retro game. And I guess let's actually lay some definition here, because just talking to different people, when you say the word retro game to them, they like everybody has a different definition, it seems. Like, in my opinion, retro game is like Super Nintendo back. But you talk to some people and they're like, anything like PlayStation 2 and back is retro gaming to them. So like, where are we saying retro gaming is?
Now, I wanted to my idea was just to keep it like, say, PlayStation 1 and before. Because that is still pretty retro. I mean, technically, even PS2, to us, it's not retro, but it really is. Because the PS2 came out, like over 20 years ago. So technically, I would say PS1 and before.
Got 'em all.
Okay.
What's that?
I said got 'em all. Like, whatever retro game I'm going to name, it's the same one. And it's pre all that stuff.
That's okay.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got some, but it's multiple favorite. It's not just one favorite. We can go over multiple favorite, obscure ones, because I got a few spanning the gamut.
I mean, I can think of a couple. And if I sit here long enough, I might be able to think of more. But why don't we start off? Soda, what do you got?
Load Runner.
Oh my God, Load Runner was fantastic. That was an obscure game? I thought everybody played Load Runner.
Oh, wait, does that not meet the category?
Well, no, I mean, we're talking obscure retro games. I mean, I don't know. Does it count? I thought everybody knew Load Runner. But I could be wrong. Okay. Just because I knew Load Runner and I assumed everybody knew. It's like me assuming everybody knew Mortal Kombat.
Do the math and establish the shipping lines. Stargazer. We had to do the things and establish shipping lines and create a business across the galaxy kind of thing. It goes way back to like
Star Control?
Early 90s. What's that?
Was that Star Control?
Star Control. I think that's it. That might be it.
Like Star Control, I remember. Star Control was
shipping lines, right? With pirates? Space pirates?
I don't remember if there were space pirates in it. I honestly, I didn't play the one game I was going to mention was Starflight and Starflight 2. That's the game I played over Star Control because I had to make a choice. And my choice was Starflight 2 at the time. And then I went back and played Starflight. So I honestly don't know. I'd have to look up Star Control.
Me too. Been ages.
Yeah, it's been so long.
Decades.
Right? I wish I could say it was decades for me, because I played Starflight 2 probably a month ago, maybe 2 months ago.
Wow.
I love the Starflight series. If they could literally slap a piece of shit with Starflight 3 on the side of it and say it's $100, and I would shell it out. I have such a fanboy. Like, I would love to see, oh man, this would be my pie in the sky. I would love to see Starflight, but with No Man's Sky. Like the whole No Man's Sky kind of concept, but with Starflight. God, I got to see if that's a possibility. That, like, right, I would throw money at that. I would throw my paycheck at that. Just hands down, I would play that. Man, Lode Runner though. Okay, so for those who haven't played Lode Runner, who maybe have never heard of Lode Runner, so to explain to them what Lode Runner is.
Well, Lode Runner was a game where you were moving like a guy around a board and trying to avoid getting killed. And your action would be you could climb on things, you climb up ladders, go across poles, move around in different ways, and drop as far as you wanted to without getting hurt. But you could also dig a hole on your left or dig a hole on your right. Left, dig right. And if the other guys were running at you, you could dig a hole and they would fall in it, and you could run over them and move on. And you had to collect, I think it was treasures on each board to clear the board. Now, the real kicker on the game was, I think, the main Lode Runner, it came with 150 boards. And you could create your own boards. There's a board making. You could get all the pieces and design it. So there'd be words and maps and pieces, whatever you could design. So you could create your own boards and then send them to your friends and let them play your boards, and they could send you their boards. And so it was unlimited possibility. It didn't get old. It was a fun game. Have you played it? Ever?
Dude, I haven't played Lode Runner in
there's a web
time.
version of it now. You can go to I forget it's called Lode Runner Online or something. A web version of it.
Actually, why did I just say no? Of course there's a web version of it. There's a web version of everything now. Like, you can literally play any Super Nintendo, Genesis game you can think of in a browser.
Wow.
Like, there is literally, it's out there.
For free?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. It's wild the amount of stuff that's out there now. All right, D. You said you got a couple. Well, what are some of the ones you're thinking of?
Well, I'm going to bring us back to the Atari 2600. And the first one is, and one of my personal faves, was Mega Mania.
Oh, yeah. That one I don't know. What's Mega Mania?
So it's basically a lot like a Space Invaders clone. So you got a little starship that you go back and forth, and basically all the enemies come down. They're also shooting at you. They're moving around. You got to kind of shoot them before they reach down to your level because you'll get hit. But it's very similar to Space Invaders, and I just loved it.
Nice. I don't even know that one. That's definitely obscure enough. I didn't know it. All right, I got one. Have any of you ever heard of the game? It was for PlayStation, the original PlayStation. God, I'm trying to think of when it came out. Hold on. I gotta look it up quick. 1998. October 29th, 1998. It was a little game called Legend of Legaia.
Loved it. I had that. That was really cool. That had a killer mechanic for the battles.
That game was an RPG, and at the time, like, PlayStation era was the god tier for RPGs. Not to say that some great didn't come out for Super Nintendo and Genesis and all that, but PlayStation era came out with so many god tier RPGs. I could start naming them off, and I know I'd forget some, but I could probably sit here and name off half a dozen off the top of my head. that were just fan-frigging-tastic. But Legend of Legaia stands out to me because, one, I think they made a Legend of Legaia 2, but I don't ever remember playing it.
On the PlayStation 2, yeah.
Yeah, I don't ever actually remember playing it. I don't remember getting any Steam whatsoever. But Legend of Legaia had a mechanic in it for the battle system that was unique for RPGs at the time. So RPGs at the time were almost exclusively turn-based. They had some action RPGs out there, so it's not like they didn't exist. But turn-based RPGs really had the meat of the market. This had a turn-based RPG or turn-based combat system, but to do the turn-based actions, you actually had to put in button combinations for whatever character you had. So like each of your characters had these, I don't know how the best way to describe them, but they were like gauntlets. You know, they literally had like a gauntlet on them that was a living gauntlet. And you would put in button combinations, and the different button combinations equaled different moves, and different moves affected different enemies differently. So like you would do one move because one enemy was weak to that move, but you would have to do button combinations each time to attack. It was really unique at the time. Got fairly tiresome as you started getting further and further, but you unlocked more moves that were more complicated and more powerful. So it kind of kept you a little bit more interested in it. But Legend of Legaia was such a little gem that really, it's totally underrated. And I mean, other than people who really played RPGs at the time, I don't know very many people who know Legends of Legaia. Legends of Gaia, everybody seems to know. That was on the Super Nintendo. Everybody knows that. But nobody knew, like, every time I've ever said, hey, you ever played Legends of Legaia? They're like, oh, Legends of Gaia on Super Nintendo. I'm like, no. Legends of Legaia on PlayStation. And they go, huh? There was a sequel to Legends of Gaia? No, there wasn't. This is a completely different game. But that was an obscure one that most people didn't catch on. You know what?
I played that one through all the way and beat that?
No, what?
On a little, like, you know, remember the PlayStation 1 that came out? The PlayStation 1 with the little screen that flipped up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I played and beat Legend of Legaia on that in my radio shelter during training in NTC in California back when I was in the Army.
Wow.
And then, of course, my sergeant and my teammates were all like, man, let me try that. Yeah, so I had, like, my NCO, he was playing it. My buddies were playing. We're all taking turns playing through the game. We all had our save files on there. Pretty badass.
How about you, Soda? You got another obscure retro game you can think of?
Wow.
It could be a computer. Doesn't have to be a console. Just that's the first one that came to mind was Legends of Legaia.
It can run the gamut.
Atari, ColecoVision, I don't care.
What was the game on Atari 400? Was it Star Blazers?
I don't know. Hum a few
You were like a
bars.
fighter and you had like first person Star Blazer? I have to think of it. It's been decades. That was a fun game. That never got old. Well, it got old eventually.
I'm looking up Star Blazers. Star Blazers.
Star Blazer.
That's a show called Star Blazers. That's a television series from 1979 to 1984. Star Blazers arcade gameplay?
Star Raiders. Excuse me.
Star Raiders. Oh, this is an interesting
Star
one.
Raiders, 1979. Wow. That's it. That's the game. Star Raiders.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah. That's the old school. That's like the Vector one.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's... Did they ever make a remake of Star Raiders?
I have no idea.
Let's find out. Remake. Save 50% on Star Raiders on Steam. What is this? Holy
You can play
crap.
Star Raiders now?
There's a game called Star Raiders, and it's on Steam. Ooh, it got mostly negative views. Take on.
I remember it back in the day on the Atari 2600, but I didn't play it too much.
This is actually looks like a remake of the original. So Star Raiders features a fresh new take on the seminal classic, letting you engage in an epic dogfight and aerial assault against the onslaught of the evil Xylons. Wow, they actually made a remake in 2011 of this game.
Really?
I'm not, I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not, because it seems any game that was ever out, somebody's made a remake of.
Right.
Wow,
Weird.
Star Raiders. I don't think I've ever played Star Raiders. I'm interested
It
now,
was
though.
like a first-person shooter. You were like in the cockpit of a fighter plane. It wasn't like Star Wars or anything like that. It was its own kind of beast. Like I said, it was fun until it got old.
All right, D. Hit us with another retro obscure game. What do you got?
I have an RPG for the PlayStation that's pretty obscure, but I thought it was pretty cool. Called Daika.
Never even heard of this.
Yeah, look it up. It's pretty neat. See, it was... you play... The main character's a female, and she loses her pendants, meets this other guy, and they're in like a monastery where they, somebody attempts to poison them. But anyways, it's like a horror tactical RPG. It's almost like... Except you don't get to summon demons or anything, but it's almost like Persona atmosphere meets like Final Fantasy Tactics. So the battle system is a tactics style, and it's really neat. So it's got some horror elements. It's really neat. It's got a cool storyline. I had fun playing it.
You're gonna have to link that, because the only thing I found is Koldelka, which is like, it almost looks like a survival horror game.
Yeah, I mispronounced it. It's probably called Delka. I mispronounce things like to no end.
Yeah, this totally. Oh, maybe I'm not seeing it right. Oh, okay, that looks better.
Sounds like a brand of vodka. Called Delka.
I mean, hey, I'll get drunk on anything. Oh, have you guys ever heard
Koudelka?
Yeah, I found it.
Yeah,
I found it.
Yeah,
released in
really
'99.
Yep, by SNK. I actually played through and beat that while I was in Iraq.
Wow.
Have you guys ever, sorry, sidetrack, have you guys ever heard of the liquor called Malort?
No.
No? Okay. Well, we'll circle back around to Malort at another time. Yeah, we'll circle back around to that. I don't know if this will count as obscure, because it did spawn several sequels. But
as long as it's not mainstream, I would say more obscure, because you got the big names like the Zeldas, the Marios, but
I'm not 100% sure. Like Suikoden, in my mind, is kind of obscure, but this game falls in the same kind of. Well, Suikoden falls more in my mind of like mainstream. Sorry, not obscure, but
I would agree.
The original Wild Arms.
Love it.
Like, when I first played the original Wild Arms, nobody knew what the hell Wild Arms was. But it was cutesy. It had, like, its top-down view was very anime style. But the battle system jumped right into, like, these 3D models that I honestly thought were beautiful.
What year did that come out?
Wild Arms?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna guess 97 or 98, because it came out after I started dating my wife, but it came out before I graduated.
Yeah, because I seem to remember that's where I got introduced to it, was your house, I believe.
Well, yeah, because you introduced, like, we did a swap on those, if you remember. You had Suikoden, and I had Wild Arms, and I traded you so that you could play Wild Arms and I could play Suikoden.
Yep.
And it was after. So Wild Arms was a role-playing game, turn-based role-playing game for the original PlayStation, and it had it was 3-person parties, and it had kind of a very Western kind of feel to it. There it is, the original Wild Arms. I probably still have mine upstairs now that I think about it too. It had a very Western feel to the whole game. Suikoden was different. Suikoden was it was a game of like, I think it was 108 stars. You could have 108 different characters that you could find in the game and play. And there it is, Suikoden. God, those games bring back some memories. Holy hell. Yeah, there were some great RPGs that were just really fantastic to play. Like, as I said, PlayStation era had some very, like, it was just the golden age of RPGs, in my opinion. Not that there hasn't been some great RPGs that have come out since. Like, Square Enix with Final Fantasies, they keep nailing it time after time. Even though, like, I didn't enjoy Final Fantasy 12. I really didn't give Final Fantasy 13 a try because I didn't enjoy Final Fantasy 12. Final Fantasy 14 is an MMO, so I didn't even give that a shot. But Final Fantasy 15 is fantastic. And every Final Fantasy therein, I know, has got a fantastic storyline. I just didn't give a chance. There's been some really, really great RPGs out there. And honestly, now that I'm saying that, other than Square Enix, who's come out with a good role-playing game as of late?
I mean, if you like tactical RPGs, Nice, they're still coming out with stuff like the Disgaea series. Disgaea 6 was just released, if you like that.
Yeah, I guess Disgaea's, I don't know, I guess it is a role-playing game. I just always found them very, I don't know. They were kind of out there. Well, they're very distinctly a JRPG. So, I mean, I'll give you that.
What about Triangle Strategy? Octopath Traveler.
Oh, you know what? Okay, I stand corrected. There have been some fantastic RPGs that have come out as of late. Octopath Traveler is absolutely fantastic. Wasn't there? They remade Saga Frontier, but didn't they have a sequel to Saga Frontier that they came out? Or was that Octopath Traveler?
They remade Saga Frontier. They remade Saga Frontier 2, Saga Frontier 3.
Oh, ActRaiser. They also remade. That remake was fantastic.
They did a great job with that remake.
Holy crap. Like, that, if there was any game I never expected to ever get a remake, it was ActRaiser. Came out, blew my mind. I played it over a friend's house. I still haven't bought it myself, and I still have to buy it myself, and I still haven't.
But that's the thing. Not only did I never guess they would make a remake, but you would never guess it would be done well. That's even like more shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, if they were going to remake it, you would think that they were just going to do like a remaster where they just kind of throw an extra coat of paint or a new coat of paint on it and say, hey, here's a game. Give me $30. No, they were like, hey, we redid everything. We made this look good. We made the controls feel good. We gave you extra content. We revamped. We revamped the music. Yeah, I was going to say the music. They fucking nailed it. Oh God, ActRaiser. If you have not played ActRaiser, honestly, you can skip the original and just play the new ActRaiser because it blows the original out of the water, just out of the water. And I can't believe I'm saying that.
But keeps the soul of it.
Yes.
It absolutely keeps the soul of it. It's great.
100%. God, yeah, ActRaiser. That's such a great game. All right. What do you got, Soda? Let's go another round here. Bring a last round of obscure games through here.
Would the Origin, like the first Castle Wolfenstein, count?
Yeah, that's
too mainstream.
That's obscure enough. Like the original, you're talking about the original one that was released by id
Apple II.
Back in the day.
Apple II.
Yeah, that counts as obscure enough.
I don't know how many people actually played that version of it, where you actually kill Hitler with the 2 freaking Gatling guns. He's in the robot suit at the end. Talking about that one?
I think that was Castle Wolfenstein 2. I think Castle Wolfenstein, you tried to get into the bunker and find the briefcase bomb, and then you had once you found it, after you're sneaking around the bunker and dodging guards or shooting some guards, but you don't want to get overpowered, so you'd have to kill one and duck behind a door and hide and let them run by you, that kind of thing. You want to bring that briefcase bomb, and in the bottom, like the 3rd floor, you'd have to go 3 deep. The
oh my God.
Of the bunker, you'd find Hitler's, where you'd be walking back and forth and commanding all the other people. And you'd get in there without being detected. You'd leave the bomb there and you'd leave. And then
You're talking about the
And that's
old,
it.
like, it's almost a top-down version of the game?
Yes.
Yeah,
Holy
for the Apple IIe.
hell.
As opposed to the first one that the full 3D version that we played around the era of Doom.
That was called Wolfenstein, not Castle
Yep.
Wolfenstein.
You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You are absolutely right.
Yeah.
That is obscure. That 100% is obscure enough. I did not even know that existed. I 100%, like, I knew Wolfenstein. I played Wolfenstein. Like, I remember sitting in Radio Shack playing the demo where it gave you, like, the whole first, like, it was a 3-episode campaign and it gave you the first episode for free. I remember playing that. But, oh my God, I don't remember this at all. I'm looking at this. This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and then there was a Wolfenstein 2, and then there was a third one. There's a series of them. I think I played the first 3 before Beyond Castle Wolfenstein, which is another one, and then it went and it changed quite a bit, and then Wolfenstein years later, which was more of a first-person shooter game.
Oh God, yeah, this definitely counts. Holy crap! That you remembered that much of it too. Bravo, man. God, this is old.
Obscure, it's what I do.
That is obscure. That is obscure.
Let's talk about trivia. Talk about 70s progressive rock bands.
All right, D. What do you got, man? What's your give us your final obscure video game of the past?
Hopefully it's obscure enough, but it's an RPG on the NES.
Okay.
And usually, like, if you remember, usually most movie games kind of suck.
Oh yeah, terrible.
But this one is actually really, really fun RPG. Willow.
Oh my God, Willow on the
It was a
Nintendo
fun RPG.
Entertainment. You know what?
Yes. I still have it boxed.
I remember playing that game once, and we rented it from, God, what was that place called? It was right on the corner there, the video store. What the hell was it called? I just called it the video store.
I can't remember. I remember the store. I just don't remember what it was called.
It had blue siding. I just remember I just always called it was like a house. It was literally like somebody's house that they just converted into a video store. We rented it from there, and I want to say we rented it once, and then because it was my brother's Nintendo, we never rented it again because he didn't like RPGs. Oh my God, Willow. Val Kilmer and Willow, man.
And the good old days when Val Kilmer was still healthy and young and kicking ass.
Yeah, dude, they did a great job with him in the new Top Gun. I really do got to say, like, I was a little.
I'm glad they were able to do that.
I was leery. Like, at first when they were just doing the text messages, I was like, that's a great way of including him. But then when they like had him, in there, I was like, oh God, I really hope they don't fuck this up.
So
and they did
do the CGI kind of like with Marvel when Marvel did Steve Rogers.
No, it was him. No, it was Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer was physically there. They used AI his voice
to create his voice.
Yes.
But isn't he huge?
What do you mean? Like, he gained a little weight. But I mean, he's not like...
Actually, he didn't really gain weight so much as he just looks odd around the neck and face area. A little bloated in there because he had throat cancer and he had a tracheotomy, which is why he lost his voice. He's been very, very sick. So he was wickedly ill for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah, but I loved what they did with him in the new Top Gun. I just and that movie passed, I think, $1 billion worldwide. I'm happy. I'm totally happy they did, because the original one that came out, like, it did well, but it didn't do like well. It got more in video sales, I think, than it did in ticket sales. But yeah, super happy about that. But dude, yeah, that's Willow. Holy crap, that's definitely going back in time. I gotta watch that movie again. God, I haven't seen Willow in so long. I did
just watch it not that long ago. I introduced the kids to Willow. I've been introducing them to all kinds of 80s stuff lately.
I would be okay with them bringing back the Willow storyline, because that's a whole world that really needs to be.
They're doing a series that follows afterwards, following Warwick Davis. His character Willow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, I haven't seen that movie in eons, but my niece is named Willow. Totally unrelated, but when if my daughter goes by in the hall out here and hears you talk about Willow, she'll be like, Cousin Willow, and she'll go in here. So the name Willow means a lot in this class.
Well, Well, the last obscure game that I have, and I got so many of them. I mean, there's some honorable mentions that I would like to throw in there, but I'm not, just for the sake of time and respect. But the one obscure game that I'm going to throw out there is from an old 1980s educational television series. And it's called, the game itself had elements of role playing in it. It had elements of survival in it. It had so many different elements packed into one game. The game was incredibly short, but it was really, really fun. And it was an educational game to boot. It's called The Voyage of the Mimi. Does anybody remember The Voyage of the Mimi?
I don't remember it at all.
So The Voyage of the Mimi was an old, as I said, an educational television show that was about a group of people who were on a boat, and there were all different people. Like there was a deaf person on there, there was a young kid on there, there was the old captain, and they were all doing like this, whatever. I forget exactly what they were doing, but they end up like not crashing, but they end up getting stranded on an island, and it's them surviving on this island. And you learn, there was a whole bunch of different things. Like it's ironically where I learned about hypothermia and one of the best ways to combat hypothermia. So if you, and just for anybody who's listening, if you're ever wondering, oh geez, well, what are you talking about? So there was an episode where, they were coming in, they literally were dragging the boat in because the boat had an issue, and they were dragging themselves into the island. And it was, of course, up in northeastern, so it was cold water. And there were people who were on the deck, they were getting blah, 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 blah. But as they're dragging it in, one of the older gentleman, the captain, I think it was a captain. Well, as they're dragging it in, he collapses. Well, all of a sudden when they get up to him, they're like, oh my God, he collapsed. What happened? They start feeling like he's cold. He's frigid. They realize he's going through hypothermia. So what they do is they quickly grab a couple of sleeping bags. They zip them up so that they're two sleeping bags on top of one another, basically big enough to hold two people. And they strip him down to just to skivvies, and they throw him in the sleeping bag, and another guy skims down to his skivvies and jumps in the sleeping bag and jumps next to him. And the working theory is that the quickest way to transfer heat to get somebody warm is to, one, get them out of the wet clothes that are insulating the cold to them, and two, put a source of heat with them. Well, of course, they didn't exactly have like a fire or something that they could use. So the nearest source of heat they had was another human being. So in a pinch, if you're ever stuck somewhere and somebody's suffering through hypothermia and you happen to have two sleeping bags, cram both people in the sleeping bags, your heat could actually save somebody's life.
Yeah, it's skin-on-skin contact's important, and it'll with something that's insulated like a sleeping bag, it'll hold in the heat as it,
Exactly.
It's more and more. And water actually draws heat out of the body, so it's especially important to get dry.
Exactly. So Voyage of the Mimi, and it was a game where you literally had to decide what you were going to do in a day. You were either going to build shelter, you were going to forage for food, you were going to try to fish, you were going to try to hunt, all these different things. And by today's standards, incredibly simple, and incredibly simple to, once you figured out how to play it was incredibly simple to win the game. But learning the game, that was really the fun part. And it was really obscure. You could probably find it online somewhere. Just Google Voyage of the Mimi play in browser or something. You'll probably find it. You can play it. But definitely an obscure game from way back when, but it had all the elements to have a really fun little educational game. And there was a lot of in the actual game itself, it would have you would forage for food, and it would come up and say, this is the flower that you saw. And it would give you basically a picture of this plant or flower that you saw. And you had to decide whether that was edible or not edible. And you actually had a book that came with it that you would flip through and see if that was an edible plant or not. And if it was, you'd say yes. And you would take that plant and you would eat it. Well, everything was timed as well. So the longer you took to identify it, the less you, of course, could find. So it behooves you to read the book and memorize it so that you could then memorize what plants were good, what plants were bad. And you keep the plants that are good, and you can get more plants and keep your food up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But a really old, obscure game, fun as hell. Totally should check it out.
Wow. Just wow.
Right? Yeah, like there's like you don't get like
Detailed.
There are some great games, like, as I said, Star Raiders, never heard of Castle Wolfenstein. Like, I know I've heard Castle Wolfenstein, but never did I put two and two together that there was a Castle Wolfenstein that came out for the Apple IIe. Like,
oh, that's the original one. Yeah, way before it was a first-person shooter and it had robust graphics.
yeah, just totally wild. So I've definitely learned some interesting games tonight. Totally stoked. Like, that was awesome. Anybody got any honorable mentions that they want to throw in there?
Sure.
What do you got?
You know, I mean, I'm debating whether this is really obscure or not. I thought it was a little bit more mainstream, but, you know, I've seen it on some lists of obscure, but Little Nemo and the Dream Master.
Oh, Little Nemo. I don't know that's, I mean,
That's not too obscure.
I guess that would be obscure. That's obscure enough, because I don't know that there was a lot of people who played Little Nemo. I mean, I
really love it.
Again, I know Little Nemo and the Dream Master, where you got the different masks, and like you could be Jason, or you could be like Dracula. You could be a whole bunch of different people in that game.
No.
Little Nemo, he wasn't the one with the masks?
No, you're thinking of Kid Chameleon.
Oh, you're right. I
No,
am.
Little Nemo was the one that he woke up in Dreamland and there was a problem, and he could actually throw candy until the certain animals until they fall asleep, and he could jump in them and become them and use their abilities.
Oh
like
my
the lizard,
God.
the big gorilla.
You're right. I was talking about Kid Chameleon.
Yes.
God, and every time I think of Kid Chameleon, I immediately think of Splatterhouse. Because the guy walking around just had the Jason mask on. Yeah, God. I mean, Kid Chameleon's pretty obscure, too. Did they ever make a remake of Kid Chameleon?
I don't think so. I don't remember seeing anything about a remake of Kid Chameleon.
I'm surprised. I would have thought that they would have made that game. Well.
But it was a fun game. I liked Kid Chameleon. With Genesis, I liked Comic Zone was a cool one, too.
Comic Zone was fun. I think that's obscure enough, too, because Comic Zone was... that was really well done artwork in there. That was really pushing things to its limit for the Genesis. But the one thing that I got to say I like that you saw with Comic Zone, and you saw with a lot of Genesis games, in my opinion, is that they looked great, but because they looked so good, you could only have a very few number of sprites on screen.
Yeah. And you had to have a shorter game, too, sometimes.
Well, like Jurassic Park comes to mind. The Jurassic Park game that came out for the Genesis looked primo, but you could only have like 3 sprites on screen at any given time. Like if you had your character and 2 compies, things started to stutter. Like that's how bad it was.
How about an obscure game that was fun in my childhood, but really isn't a great game?
I'll take it. What do you got?
NES, Dash Galaxy and the Alien Asylum.
Ooh, I don't even know that one.
That was a hard-ass platformer, man. That was hard.
When I think Nintendo, I immediately go back to, like, my jam was Bayou Billy. Did you ever play Bayou Billy?
I've heard of Bayou Billy. Yeah.
I actually sold off my boxed copy not all that long ago.
That was so. Here's some inside information for Cecil. Back when I was growing up, my brother, I told you, my brother owned the Nintendo, so that was his. I owned the Super Nintendo, so my first Super Nintendo games were actually Zelda: A Link to the Past and Home Alone. Those are my first two games. In fact, technically, Home Alone was my first game for the Super Nintendo, which I then got SimCity shortly after that with A Link to the Past. But on the Nintendo Entertainment System, I got very few games. The first game we ever actually played was, my brother got that we played was, do you remember Rambo for Nintendo?
Oh, yeah.
So we had that.
Rambo?
The original Rambo for the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I think I remember that.
We had that, but the first game, now here's the insider information, the first game that I personally owned, I saved up my money and I went and I bought was Bayou Billy. That was the first game I ever owned myself. Everything else I had wasn't mine. It was always my brother's.
It was a fun one, though.
Bayou Billy, I played the hell out of, but like looking back on it, that was such a terrible freaking game. It wasn't as bad as E.T., don't get me wrong, but Bayou Billy was just, it was like there was no continuity to it. It was literally just, it was what was that one? Streets of Rage, just with an Australian setting. Like that's all it was.
Pretty much. But it was fun. Another one I liked was Codename Viper on the NES.
Codename Viper. Oh my god. Oh, you know,
but that's a good obscure one.
You know what? Here's an honorable mention for obscure games. Does anybody remember the game Covert Action?
Isn't
Dimly.
that a movie?
You played as a spy, and you were literally in the whole game. Like there were a bunch of different mini games in it. So there was like, if you haven't played it, 100% you should go get it, because in my opinion, it still stands the test of time with the mini games that it had, and it was stupid fun. But you would sneak into an area, you would look for intel, and the different intel would tell you which group was doing something, whatever. So like you'd say the Russians or the KGB were going to plant a bomb in the Vatican or something. And you had to go in, and you had to go to these different areas, break in, find the information, and there was different things. Like they had one where you would tail somebody and you'd have to follow them to a building. Then you'd have to break into that building and you'd have to search drawers. You'd have to leave, you'd have to like bug places and leave wiretaps. You had one where there was an electronic, cool. Dude, you can probably find it online for free, and I guarantee you could get it to work on Linux.
It looks like it's on Steam and GOG, but I brought it up here. It looks like I didn't realize it's made by Sid Meier. It's a Sid Meier's Covert Action. Came out in 1990 by Microprose for IBM PC compatibles and Amiga.
Yes. Covert Action. If you've not played the game, it's
Amiga.
It's tough. It's tough, but it's fair. It was such a fun game, but man, I would play, like, if somebody made a modern version of that, I would play the hell out of it. I literally play the hell out of it. It was, you were 007, you would, so you would go to break into some place, and you had to decide on what you wanted to bring with you. So you had to bring wiretaps, anything that you had to do, you had to carry with you, and you only had so much room. So, you walked in with a pistol, normally, but you could carry an Uzi with extra ammo if you wanted to. You could grab body armor, but body armor increased your weight, making it so that you could do other stuff. Or you couldn't bring other stuff with you. You had to bring a camera so that you could open up intel and take pictures of it to bring it back out with you. It was just such an intricate and fun little game. Totally worth playing. Al, you know what? If you don't have it, let me know. Like, seriously, I will buy it for you. Because I know I have it on Steam. I played the hell out of it. And for a retro game, it's definitely worth playing. All right, any other honorable mentions?
I don't know if it's obscure or not, but I could say, when you're talking Super Nintendo, I could say Punch-Out. Well, that's kind of mainstream.
Yeah, Punch-Out's mainstream. I would veto that only because they made Punch-Out for Super Nintendo. They had Little Mac has been in
on the way.
He's been in so many other places too, like Super Smash Brothers Brawl.
But whenever you have a boxer and the opponent is named Glass Joe, it was
a great game.
It was my funny bone to have that name and fight against Glass Joe. Like, I'm not a boxer, but if I ever wanted to box, I want an opponent named Glass.
Yeah, I want Glass Joe.
You know what's interesting? One of the rarest carts, and one of the ones that are going for big money right now, is actually the original Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, but not the 5 screw version.
Interesting.
There's a 5-screw cart with some of the earlier carts that have the Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and it's going for like eBay, something like $500. I think they sold one for.
Really?
So that version is actually big money. Yeah. Interesting thing. If an interesting side note on Nintendo games. Like, do you remember like the first Nintendo games that came out? The original like 10 or 15, the Black Label ones.
Vaguely.
But you had the original set that had the black labels, the black box ones. Well, when they first came out, they had 5 screws. So that's how one of the ways you can identify them. You had like Gyromite, the original Super Mario, games like that. And the cool thing about it is they had a shortage of some of the boards and some of the stuff they needed for the American market. So what they did is they had the boards for the Famicom games, which is pretty much the same hardware, same system. They just changed it for the American market. So what they had in those old cartridges is when they had a bunch of the Famicom carts, what they did is they put, like, you could buy like an adapter so you could plug in Famicom games to your NES. Mm-hmm. Well, that's what that was internal to some of those original games. They had that adapter in there. So basically, if you unscrewed the cart and popped off that cartridge, you could put a Famicom game cartridge on that and then plug it in your NES and use it.
Interesting.
And you can tell because of the original run of games, they have the 5 screws, and then you can feel they have a little bit more weight, it's just a little bit more hefty than the other ones.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
And it's got a built-in converter plugged right in, so you could actually swap Famicom games with one of those original cartridges, and you can sit there and just play your Famicom games in the NES.
Huh.
Wow.
Cool little tidbit.
Say, I learned something today.
Never told anybody about that.
No, it was just a way to get around a supply issue to meet up the demand for the holiday and everything else. And shortly after that, they went back to the regular cartridges, and then they went down to the 3 screws. They never mentioned why they went from the 5-screw cartridges to the 3 screws. But if you look at it, it's a lot cheaper to produce. So they probably saved a lot of money doing that.
But it's the same game.
Yes, correct. Yeah, same game. It's like the exact same game. The only difference for a lot of the American ones are mostly is translation. There's a few differences in some games. A few things they've graphically edited for, like, say they've changed for, like, censorship and stuff. For here, there's a few mechanical differences. Like, say, on the original NES, on the Famicom, Legend of Zelda, those little things with the big ears that jump around, you kill them with the arrows. Well, on the old Famicom, the second controller had a little microphone, so we'd yell into the microphone and it would kill them. But obviously, there's no microphone on the American NES, so you kill them with arrows. So that's how you would kill them. Because if you read and you read the tints, it says that the poles or the pole voices, whatever their name is, are sensitive to sound. Well, that's because in the Japanese version, you would yell into the microphone and kill them all.
Huh.
Pretty neat. Another little tidbit.
Yeah. More I didn't know. The more you know.
I think Soda froze. I just see his face staring at me.
It's all good. Well, we'll flip it back around. And on that note, D, where can people find you at?
People can find me at microbrewgamerz.com with a Z instead of an S. That's my website. I'm doing articles now. I've thrown up a few more new ones recently. I'm starting to work more on that. I've got my YouTube channel. I haven't touched it in a while, but pretty soon I'm going to be doing and throwing up a video on an unboxing of the Steam Deck, trying that out. So I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on the YouTube channel too. Of course, I'm active. I got a Twitter, an Instagram, Twitch. I mostly just watch other people on Twitch. I haven't really put too much content out myself, but I'm thinking about in the near future maybe starting to do a little bit more with that.
Nice.
But Facebook, my own Discord, and of course I'm mostly on the G.N.A. podcast Discord.
Well, once we get multiplayer on Query, we'll have to jump on Twitch and do both sides of it with multiplayer. See how that works out.
Corey? Okay, the proper way this time.
Oh yeah, the good way. Well, Soda, I'm assuming he had a client crash, so you can find him pretty much lurking around the G.N.A. podcast Discord or digitally sampling every beer in Microbrew's fridge. I'm Cecil Xavier, your host. You can find me on Cecil vs. Games on Twitter, Cecil Xavier everywhere else. Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, Twitch. Facebook, pretty much everywhere. If I'm not there, let me know. I'll go there. I'll upload there. Fine with that. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe in your favorite podcast app. Reviews help you find the show. So if you enjoy listening to us, let other people know so they can join in as well. You can find us on Podcast Addict, Player FM, Spreaker, MyTuner, Your Listen, Google Play Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify, all sorts of places. If we're not there, let us know. We'll upload there as well. You can also find our links to our Discord and every episode on our website, www.GNApodcast.com. So go check that place out. There's also a link over to Microbrew Gamerz under articles. It actually just, if you hold your mouse cursor over articles, it just pops up with Microbrew Gamerz. What else? We're partnered with Humble Bundle. Humble Bundle is a game purchasing service with a twist. You can donate to charity while you purchase games. So if you are going to buy a game from Steam anyways, or Epic, or wherever, go check Humble Bundle first. Put the question mark partner equals G.N.A podcast at the end of your Humble Bundle link to let them know that we sent you. If there's a slider, just put that slider down to 0. G.N.A doesn't want your money. We just want to know that we sent you there and that you donated to charity. That's the metrics we get, and that's the metrics we care about. I feel like I missed.
You want to hear a bonus NES fact?
Hit it.
So, do you know why we got, instead of the old Famicom that the Japanese had, do you know why we got the big gray NES box that we did? And why it was top loaded, why it was actually insert through the front and push down?
Don't know. Why?
Well, if you think back after Atari, had the video game crash, right? So the American, especially in the American markets, everybody thought it was like a toy. Nobody was interested anymore. So it was a very, they were testing the waters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But video cassette, like VHS, was big in the U.S. Watching movies on that. So what they did is they designed it to look and feel less like a toy, less like a video game system, which is why they also called it a Nintendo Entertainment System to sound a little bit more advanced, grown up.
Yeah.
But they also made it look like they wanted to make it look similar to like a VHS or Beta, which was popular in the US at the time, and complete with loading the game in the front. And that's also why they made the cartridges so much bigger. They're basically the same size as a Famicom cartridge, the actual circuit board. But the game itself, the cartridge is so much bigger and heavier. They wanted to make it feel sturdier, more adult, more like technical, for the American market. So they did that to make it look more like, to fit with of course, it would fit with our, our VHS and everything else, and it would look more at home there, and it was a little bit more sophisticated to kind of get away from the toy and the game type feeling since the market crash. Because they were very unsure about the American market at that point.
I would have been too. Well, cool, man.
But it worked.
Well, dude, thank you for joining me on the show tonight. I know Soda would say pleasure being here as well, but he probably had a crash of his whole computer, and he'll be back in a little bit.
You have a great one. It's good to be back.
Yeah, man. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye.